name's Amy Millar. I'm very lucky to have my dad Ian and my brother Jonathan as part of my family and my support team and my training group to help me achieve my goals. And having Ian in Rio was an incredible advantage for me because he did the Olympics 10 times before. He knew all of the stresses and pressures and distractions that I could face, and he prepared me for them in advance. I went and watched him at the Olympics 3 times before, so I also saw all the things that he had to deal with and all the different experiences that he had, because the Olympics is essentially just another competition. It is just a bigger competition, and it's on a stage where the whole world is watching, and there's a lot of additional pressure. And if you can reduce the experience back to what you know how to do and what you can control, and in my case that is how I ride and how I prepare and how my horse is feeling. And if those are the only things I have to worry about, then I've got a chance to succeed and to achieve what my job is. And so obviously all of his experience with walking the horses and knowing the answers that to the questions that the course designer was posing, all of that was a great asset to me. But I would say a big part of it was him just taking away and blocking all of those outside stresses from me and preparing me for what was going to happen. And so I went in there feeling really comfortable in the environment and comfortable with the situation. And I think that's really important because the first day, the first leg of the Olympics, the course was very difficult. And you're sitting there watching, and there was this one line that was quite tricky to a combination, and you went up the hill the last 3 strides. And you're watching the best riders in the world, and they're making mistakes. Like, people are making mistakes. And if this was Saturday night in Wellington or Sunday afternoon in Spruce Meadows, these riders would not be making these mistakes. It was that the pressure or the situation or the distraction or the way they got their horse ready, something along the way they've done differently. So Ian really helped me to expect and prepare and manage those types of situations. He's a very busy guy. So he gets up and he eats, if we're at home, he has his hay and his grain in the morning at 7 a.m. and fresh water. And then normally he'd go out on the walker. We have a walker that 3 horses go on at a time, and they walk for 20 minutes in the morning. Then he would come back in his stall and relax, go to the bathroom, have a little bit more hay and food maybe. And then I would normally come along and ride him for between 45 minutes and an hour. Back in the stall for a couple more minutes, out in the paddock for an hour or 2, and then every second day he goes on the treadmill. And the day that he doesn't go on the treadmill, he would go out for a hand walk and graze in the afternoon. He has lunch at noon, he has hay again at 3:30, grain again at 4, and then he also has hay and grain at 9 p.m. at night check. He has hay and a half a grain at night check because he flew to Vancouver in May, he flew to Belgium in June, he flew to Rio in August, and then back to Belgium, and then to Calgary. And then he drove all the way home, poor guy, from Calgary. So, needless to say, when he arrived home a couple of weeks ago, he was a little bit skinnier than when he left in May. So when they get like that, we give them an additional grain at night as well to just try to bring them back up to their proper weight. But one of our big philosophies is keep them moving, especially if you have a horse that is as fit as these Grand Prix horses have to be. Keep them moving, you know. In nature, horses are outside walking around and eating all day long. So we try to get them out as often as we can. And he's been on a bit of a vacation, mini vacation, since he got home from Calgary. But starting next week, I'm going to start jumping him once a week. And I've written down things that places where I've had rails all summer long, and all these huge competitions that I've been at. And deconstruct some of the situations that course designers created for us that cause problems and teach him how to do them properly, because he's amazingly talented, but he's only 9 years old, and we've been competing nonstop, and sometimes when you're competing nonstop, you don't have time to go back and teach them the little gaps in their education. So I've been keeping track of the things that we need to learn and improve on so that I can address those, teach them to be better at those couple of things, and then move forward and have less rails in the future and keep learning and getting better. So right now he's going to flat for just right on the flat for 45 minutes to an hour a day from Tuesday to Sunday. One of those days I'm going to jump him, and I'm going to pick a specific exercise in advance that I want to work with him and teach him, because at this point in his career, it's not, he doesn't need to jump a lot of jumps. It needs to be really targeted training to, you know, and then other than that, sort of start saving his body and stuff like that because he's had a hard year. So yeah, he'll flat 5 of the days. I'll jump him one day, and he goes on the treadmill every second day, walking up hills. And we have, this time of year, spring and fall, we like to do fitness work a lot because, again, summer and winter we're competing so much, it's hard to do fitness work. So we have a track, and I'll take him out to the big track and do a lot of fitness work with him and up and down hills and stuff like that, because the more muscle that I can put on him, the more he's going to protect his bones and his joints and his soft tissue and all of that kind of stuff. And he's only 9, so he will, theoretically, he could be in his prime during Tokyo. So if I can care for his body over the next 4 years successfully, then I have a real shot at performing really well in Tokyo. So that's going to be my major focus with him, is keep him healthy, get him strong as I can. Left Spruce Meadows at the end of June and did not return back to Canada until the second week in September. So he was in Belgium, he was in Rio, and he was back in Calgary. So I spent most of my summer flying around and following him and concentrating on him and attempting to keep the program as consistent as possible. So, because consistency with these animals is what is critical to being able to create the scenario where they're at their best when you need them to be at their best. So, I mean, we take our feed, we take our Purina feed with us wherever we go, we take all of our supplements with us wherever we go, I take Danny, my amazing groom, and we were over at Artisan Farms in Belgium, which is beautiful, but I took all of the Millerbrook Farm training procedures, and I set those gymnastics and those exercises in their ring, and just really tried to keep everything the same as, I stuck to the exact same program that got me to my first clean round in my first Grand Prix with that horse. And because that is what, that program is what got us all the way to Rio. And it gets difficult to stay consistent when you're all over the place, but I think that was a critical part of our continued success, was just making sure that you stick to what works. I do love to ride young horses and to train young horses. Because I think it reminds you, well, I know it reminds me of the innocence of the animal. Because when you work with older horses all the time, a lot of their negative behaviors have been taught to them by us, by humans, unfortunately. And then you get these young horses, these sort of a blank canvas. And it reminds you how kind and beautiful the animals really are. And to take them from knowing nothing to, you know, jumping a course is quite a gratifying experience. So as far as tips are concerned, we do a lot of round penning. I do a lot of round penning because if you can control an animal with nothing more than the way you move your body and a little tiny flag and get them to, the idea is you get them to hook onto you. And so that means that they are acknowledging that you are the leader of the herd and they are becoming submissive to you. And so once you get them to do all of that, then riding is easy because they're receptive and they're ready to learn and to do what you want them to do. And then it's not a violent or dangerous procedure to teach them something new because I don't really like to get bucked off of young horses. I like the quiet, progression. So yeah, I teach them a lot on the ground. I work with them a lot on the ground before I actually get on them. And by the time I do get on them, I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to do. And that helps to keep me safe. So the question is, how do you remember courses? After you do it a certain amount, you start to recognize a pattern. So it does get easier, but basically what I would do, if it's a big competition, I'd go and I look at the course chart well in advance of the course walk, and nowadays with all the technology, sometimes I'll take a picture of the whole thing and go sit somewhere quietly. And even if it's not built in the ring, I look at the ring and I look at the chart, and I look at the ring and I look at the chart until I can basically visualize the whole course out there. And then hopefully they're building the course as I'm doing this. And then so then I just keep looking at the chart, and then I look out at the ring, and I imagine it. And I do that until I can close my eyes and see the whole entire course without a break in my, you know what I mean? Because it has to become second nature. It has to be ingrained. It can't take an actual thought. The minute that I have to think about where I'm going, I've compromised my ability to jump clean in a way, because every stride, especially with the time alloweds the way they are these days, every stride that you're on that horse's back, you have to be thinking about your pace, your turn, your distance, the things that you need to do in the horse to make the horse jump clean. And if I have to be thinking about where I'm going, I've probably wasted a minute that I should have been thinking about something more important. So by the time I'm done with that whole visualization thing, I can close my eyes, I can see the whole course, and it flows without thought and without interruption. And then once I can do that, then I go and I walk the course, watch a couple more go. But yeah, it takes a little while, and especially if it's a big thing. If I'm a little nervous or something like that, then I really make sure. Like I'd almost overdo that part. Because preparation is the best way to combat nerves or to anything, any difficult type of situation. The more prepared you are, the more confident you're going to be that you can succeed. The most important thing about being successful as a rider is to love horses, because it is all about the journey. And in our sport, it doesn't really matter who you are. You will lose more than you win. You will have a cheap four faults when you've done everything you can possibly do to prepare, and there will be ups and downs. And if you love horses and you are a constant student of the sport, and every time you have a rail, you do what I did, which is write down the problem that you had and go back and fix it, then all you're doing is you're on this great adventure where every day you're getting better and there are no disappointments then. If you take the rails and the bad days as failures or disappointments, you will burn out in this sport. If you take them as lessons and as challenges to learn to understand these beautiful animals better, and you think of these horses as your partners, then you're going to love this sport and this industry forever and ever, because you will never be bored. Because every day there is a new challenge with one of these animals. And so that's the bright side of it, is that you're going to have a job forever and you're never going to be bored. But you have to be able to deal with the ups and downs. So many fantastic things that happen. But I must say that the first day of the Olympics, when I jumped clean and I looked up at the board, I took a picture because it's Amy Millar first. Yeah, I was tied with 20 other people, but Did not say that on the board.